Judges ready? Opponents ready? Okay. My time starts now. We affirm the resolution. Framework. Whichever side better alleviates poverty should win. Definitions. Welfare programs refers to a range of government programs that provide financial or other aid to individuals or groups who cannot support themselves. Public infrastructure. Building, maintaining, and redeveloping public assets that sustain the community around people. Contention 1. Education assistance. A study done by Professor Wagstaff in 2020 showed that 97% are poor because of lack of education. And according to Project Partner, only about 40% of rural students even attend high school because of the cost. Many decide to drop out in middle school. They pursue a trade to start earning income for their struggling families. Another evidence from China news indicates that in 2011, expenditure on education per rural students was 700 yuan, less than for the urban student for elementary school, and 900 yuan less for junior middle school. According to UNESEO, nearly 60 million people could escape poverty if all adults had just 2 more years of schooling, and 420 million people could be lifted out of poverty if all adults completed secondary education. Also, all children have a right to go to school, to have equal access to education at all levels. Guaranteeing equal access to students to schools to all children satisfy one basic component of the right to education. Impact. People are poor because of lack of education, and the reason that they don't receive education is because of the cost. If we provide education assistance to these people, we can provide them with education and thus alleviate them from poverty. Contention 2. Pension. China has the largest population of older adults, almost a quarter of all older people in the world. This situation will continue for a long time. The Chinese older population, aged 65 years and above, had reached 158 million by the end of 2017, which was projected to expand to 366 million in 2050. Proportion of older people will increase from 11.4% in 2017 to 26.1% in 2050. The age dependency ratio increased from 8.0% in 2028 to 15.9% in 2017. The value for this indicator is projected to soar and reach 43.6% in 2050, almost 3 times of that in 2017. The poverty rate of people aged 60 and over in urban areas was 4.6%, compared to 3.4% for the general urban population. Meanwhile, the rate was as high as 22.3% for older people in the rural areas, compared to 7.8% for the rural population as a whole. Older people in rural areas are therefore particularly disadvantaged compared to older people in urban areas. While in both cases, old age is correlated with a greater risk of poverty. In 2011, it was estimated that there were more than 18 million poor older people in China, with over 75% of these living in rural areas. However, according to a report by the World Social Security, the current pension fund for urban workers will have difficulty maintaining a balance in the next few years within the upcoming 3 decades. This means that we'll have to increase spending on the pension system in the future. Impact. China has an aging population, and the fund for pension is running out. The only way to alleviate poverty among old people is to increase spending on pension. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So, Kansai, constructive speech, any prep time?
So, now.
Oh, we cannot hear you clearly.
On side of this resolution, did you know that there are 70? Okay.
I think it's okay right now. So when you're ready, feel free to start. Yeah.
Can you hear?
Yes.
So okay, the time goes now. We are the council of today's resolution. Do you know that there are 70.17 million people are impoverished in China? We stand here to negate the resolved resolution that in China, increasing spending on welfare program is more effective at alleviating poverty than increased spending on public infrastructure. After that, we are presenting our framework. If we can prove that the construction of public infrastructures is more effective in bringing long-standing benefits to reduce poverty than welfare programs, then the country. This particular debate will employ the definition of public infrastructure from the Merriam-Webster. It is a system of public works of a country, state, or also the resource settings, or equipment. Requires the result divided infrastructure. The first kind is physical infrastructure, and the second is soft infrastructure, relating to resources required for an activity. Conventional causes.
We cannot hear you.
Education access
I
and
can't really hear
financial
you.
aid from the local government.
Hi, Kansai. We cannot hear you. So
That's good.
from you mentioned about physical infrastructure, you are lagging. So start with physical infrastructure, that point. Could you
So
hear us?
it's now. How about now?
Yeah, it's okay right now, but it's still a little laggy. But if you could do just start with physical infrastructure, we'll be fine. Oh, I think they're reconnecting. Yeah. Could you hear us now?
Yes. Is it better now?
Yeah, I think that you guys could use personal hotspot and connect with 4G. Will be better. But for this, you could just start your cases with physical infrastructure, cause the network cut off at that point. So you could just start with that. Yeah. So when you are ready, you could just start, and host will start the timer.
Okay, the time goes now. Our conventional one is overcrowding causes negative effects on the academic achievement of rural students, aggravating the rural poverty. Compared with urban education, rural education lacks resources and financial aid from the local government. A provincial survey conducted in 2015 showed that more than 40% of classes in primary and middle schools were oversized in Shandong. 10% of them had a class size of more than 66. There are too many rural places lacking enough public infrastructures, especially for education. In one specific class, only one teacher will be in charge and teach all students due to the lack of the soft educational infrastructures such as teachers. From the urban education perspective, too many students will cause teachers to be unable to pay attention to every student in the class and decrease the pace and the quality of learning. As a result, rural students who have the capability to earn a college degree are an extremely small percent of all rural students with less academic achievement definitely. Rural needs more schools to handle fewer teachers for each class, and moreover, it needs more teachers with soft infrastructure to improve the quality of teaching and students' understanding. To alleviate the poverty for a long-term plan, being educated can be the permanent asset for the poor to survive and establish themselves to the society, jumping out the vicious cycle of poverty. In contrast, welfare program cannot achieve the same effect because without schools being built, they will have no way to get education even if they have enough money. Our condition two is the construction of public infrastructures can create millions of jobs, offering the poor stable incomes and eradicating the poverty. The Chinese government needs more jobs for poor people to get rid of the poverty. Given that as many as 27 million urban workers had lost their jobs by March 2020 and 8.7 million college graduates are entering the labor market this year. Add to that, tens of millions of migrant workers are still yet to find jobs and return to the cities. All told, at least 20 million new jobs are needed. In contrast, spending more money on welfare programs will not resolve an employment issue by creating more jobs. Jobs can provide long-standing stable incomes for the poor, instantly improving their social life standards. Poverty happens especially in rural, so government need to create jobs for them to escape and permanently get rid of poverty. From the perspective of the government spending can create jobs, including labor forces and online positions. A report by Rick Zhu discovered China's 5G network and related investment will hit 3.5 trillion yuan and create 3 million jobs by 2025 to become a catalyst and key part of the national economy. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much to both side speakers. So any prep time for first speaker crossfire?
Not really.
Okay,
And
so if both sides are
Andre-
ready, feel free to start.
I believe we have the first question. Why should we build more schools when only 40% of rural students can attend high school in the first place?
Because we don't have even enough school for those for those children to get in, even for them to get education in middle school or primary school. So
Okay,
how I
my question is, why should we build more schools when only 40% of the schools can even afford the prices of the school?
so in Chinese system, the China government already provide such a fee for and welfare program for the grades below grade 9.
Okay, but
And
according to your card,
my question is how can welfare program produce a durable effect on elevating poverty?
okay, so China has the largest population of older adults, and in 2011, it was estimated that there were more than 18 million poor older people in China, with over 75% of these living in rural areas. So if we provide pension for these old people, then we thus we're able to alleviate them from poverty.
So you mean just giving money to elevate poverty?
Yeah, through pension.
Okay, then it's your turn.
Okay, so it's my turn to ask a question. So, which one is better, a crowded school or no schools at all?
Definitely, school is more important.
Okay, so you mean that
And that's why we're one building more schools for rural, because the school really lacks schools. They need more resources. They
now
need
you're
more
saying
funding.
I think you mentioned in your constructive speech that only 10% of the students living in crowded environment, right? In learning, right?
No,
Okay, I thought you said. Okay, then what's the percentage of students that are currently learning in a crowded environment?
from 40%.
40%. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a card? Can you send me the card after like the constructive speech? Oh,
No
after the
problem.
procedure, sorry. Okay.
Okay, no
And
problem.
it's your turn to ask a question.
Okay. So can you just prove that, like explain that how the welfare to raise how relating to provide jobs for relating to the higher education?
But what's the question?
How the welfare program to provide jobs to let them get higher education?
Okay, so we're judge, if time's over, should I still answer to it or should I just drop it?
Stop that. It's fine.
Okay, so I'll just drop it, right? Okay. And then can I check your card?
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Did
Please
we
send it
just
in the group.
send the text in the group chat?
Do you have an URL?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
So host, could you please just run 1 minute evidence checking time, please? Yeah, just this one. Thank you so much.
Wait. It should start after they send me the URL and I start to read the card. They haven't sent me the URL yet, so what is the time?
No, this is for them to look for the evidence,
Oh.
not for you to check it.
Oh, okay. Good.
Okay, host, so could you run prosa prep time? Thank you so much.
Yes.
I think
Okay.
I can start.
I think it's okay. Yes. And it's rebuttal speech.
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Problem.
Okay, so my time starts now. The concept stated in their first contention that the lack of teachers and the crowding leads to a lower quality in education, but they didn't provide any correlation between the crowdedness of schools and the quality of education, and thus their contention of increasing the quality of education doesn't stand. Also, our evidence shows private investment is better than public expenditure, according to Liu Jialu. As we have stated before, the link between education expenditure and learning achievement is weak. The quality of public education varies throughout the country. Public education in rich communities is more likely superior to that in poor areas. Education quality is stated to be more closely related with private investment. Increasing private investment in education is significantly related to poverty reduction. Increasing 1% of private spending, poverty will reduce 0.17%. The outline of the national medium and long-term program for education reform and development of China suggests that family investment in education continues to play a reasonable sharing role in stages of preschool, senior school, and higher school education. So that confirms to our first contention of education assistance, and by applying investments to these families and welfare programs, will be able to alleviate poverty effectively. Also, the Khan stated in their second contention that they can create jobs, but they are only stating the number of jobs created, but they didn't show any correlation between job creation and alleviation of poverty. According to Shirk from 2013, infrastructure jobs does not go to the unemployed. Just 8.5% of the unemployed previously working in occupation heavily utilizing highway, street, or bridge construction. Even fewer work in the most highly skilled construction occupations. 1/5 of workers on highway, street, and bridge project operate heavily on heavy construction equipment. Less than 1 in 200 unemployed workers previously worked in such jobs. The vast majority of the unemployed will require retraining before working on infrastructure jobs. Additional infrastructure spending will consequently employ relatively few unemployed workers. Instead, federal construction contractors would hire the skilled workforce they need away from the private construction projects. New jobs created will come primarily at the expense of other jobs in the private sectors. Okay, so that means by providing education, we will be able to give them the opportunity to have access to skills, to jobs that require high skill, and in response to our opponent's question stated in the crossfire. Also, job assistance welfare programs is better because according to Path to Prosperity, local authorities should provide targeted employment assistance to stop people from returning to poverty due to the outbreak, said a circular issued by the Ministry of Human Resource and Social Security and the State Council Leading Group Office of Poverty Alleviation and Development in February. So from that, we can see that the welfare programs is better to alleviate the poor through giving them job assistance welfare programs. And that is also in response to our opponent's question about how can welfare programs let the poor have access to job creations. Also, in addition to their first contention, they said that the lack of teachers, they didn't give any correlation between the crowdedness, and also their impact compared to ours is significantly less, because they only say that 10% of the students are in a crowded school. But to us, the major problem is that they're dropping out of school because of the cost. According to Project Partner, 40% of the students drop out in middle school, in high school because of the cost, and they have to participate in trade and other things to earn money for the struggling families. Thanks.
Thank you so much to Pro second speaker. So, rebuttal speech.
Judges ready?
Yeah.
Opponents ready? And my time starts now. First, I wanted to restate our framework, which is that whichever side can prove that their method could have a more endurable effect should win this round. And as we stated that poverty is not about only giving the money to raise the numbers, to make the numbers look better, to raise their annual incomes. That is not called alleviating poverty. However, by building infrastructure, we could enable them to have a more stable income sources to help them to truly get rid of poverty for a long term. Reducing poverty is not something that you can do instantly. It took few generations to complete it, but infrastructure is the first step. It's one of the most fundamental steps in reducing poverty. And first, I wanted to as we stated in our first contention, the overcrowding also mentioned by our opponent in the rebuttal. Our card says that 40% of classes are in primary and middle schools are oversized, and 10% is the number for the class size over 66. So 40% of students are in an inefficient classroom set where they cannot learn any effective knowledge, prepare them for high school or college. And China already have a 9-year compulsory education system that enable every student to get into basic 9-year education. And further than that, we will need to build more schools to solve the crowding issues. Because even if students can have enough money to get into high school or college, the overcrowding problem will reduce their efficiency in learning, which will left them not better than having no school to go at all. And our opponents mentioned in their first contention that when investing more in education program could give the rural and urban kids equal access to education. However, that is not true. Given that we have a hukou system that is creating the rural and urban inequality, with the hukou system existing, investing more in educational program would not reduce the inequality between the rural and urban kids. Even if the rural children can get into the crowded schools without efficient teachers and sufficient classroom, they cannot compete with those urban kids after they enter the job market. And in our second contention, we mentioned the job creation. Our opponents, they did not establish, in our opponent's second contention, they mentioned about the pension system for aging population, but they did not establish a clear link between how would giving money to old people can help them get rid of poverty in long term. Yes, give them money can increase their income. So statistically, they are not impoverished. However, in long term effect, as long as the government stops funding them, they will be very likely to be drawn back to poverty. So this is not really alleviating poverty. They are not solving any problem. However, as we stated, infrastructure is divided into two parts: hard infrastructure and soft infrastructure. Social workers should be categorized as soft infrastructure, with social workers to help aging population. In one aspect, it will create more job positions for those unemployed people. Social worker taking care of old people is a job. They can enable them to get a stable income, especially for those aged over 65. They could not take care of themselves. So welfare is not better than infrastructure in alleviating poverty. Thank you.
Second speaker, Prosper.
I believe it's my turn to ask the first question. So, if pension doesn't work, how can infrastructure solve poverty within the aging population?
The poverty within the aging population is one reason for aging population impoverished is that their offspring, their children all go to urban to seek for better infrastructure, to seek for a better life, which leaves them without a stable income.
So that means infrastructure is causing the problems of poverty if you are saying that their children, descendants are moving away from them.
Yes, that's why we need to invest more in infrastructure to better alleviate poverty.
But you just said that infrastructure in urban areas are attracting them off and they're leaving the elders and poor. You stated that in your
We are
answer.
investing more in infrastructure. We're not saying that, wait, I don't get your problem. Yes, we should invest more in infrastructure because rural area lack of efficient infrastructure to keep the young people stay there, leaving the old impoverished. So we should invest more in infrastructure to keep the young people, to help the elders, especially for those are aged over 65 or 70, those who cannot take care of themselves. They cannot take care of themselves by themselves, even if they have money. They need someone to take care of them. And the government welfare program, the funding is absolutely not enough for them to hire someone to hire a worker to help with them. However, with infrastructure with social workers, it will, in the one hand, create more jobs, and the other hand, help those others to live by themselves without providing them funds. Because
So can I ask a follow-up?
yeah, useful to them. And I think it's my turn to ask you a
okay.
question. We have evidence that says there is a huge problem of mistargeting in welfare program. How would you resolve that?
Can you read to me the evidence?
Yes.
Thanks.
The mistargeting rate was 73.8% in 2002 and 76.2% in 2007. A more serious problem are compared to estimates in previous studies.
Well, I believe, first of all, your evidence is outdated. And even if it is true, that applies to now. Our evidence from 2013 says that only 8.5% of the unemployed previously worked in infrastructures that require heavily utilized jobs. So that means the mistargeting rate of infrastructure is even higher.
However, okay, I will first respond to the mistargeting problem of infrastructure you mentioned. Yes, there are some mistargeting issues in infrastructure, but it's regulatable because we could see the result of infrastructure clearly because there is a physical result. But in welfare programs, it's very hard to regulate those mistargeting. How would you resolve that?
Do you have any evidence indicating that infrastructure is easier to regulate and welfare is harder?
More on to process summary speech, please. Any prep time?
A minute of prep time.
Yeah. How much prep time do you need?
So 40 more seconds.
Okay. This is time.
Judges ready? Opponents ready? My time starts now. First of all, I'm going to talk about framework. Both sides agree that this is a cost and benefit debate, which means that the side that alleviates poverty better shall win. And the first flashpoint of this debate is education. Our opponents argue that 40% of the students are educated in a crowded environment. However, even if they build more schools, they're only improving the education quality of these 40% people. But by education assistance, we're providing education for 40% of the whole rural population, which means that we have a greater impact than our opponent. And the second flashpoint is job creation. According to our card, only just 8.5% of the unemployed previously worked in an occupation heavily utilized in highway, street, or bridge construction. Even if you worked on highway, in the most highly skilled construction occupations, 1/5 of workers on highway, street, and bridge projects operate heavy construction equipment. Less than 1 in 200 employed workers previously worked in such jobs. Just 13,500 unemployed cement masons, concrete fishers, and terrazzo workers in the entire country, which means that our opponent only helps 8.5 of the unemployed with
Wait.
construction.
So host, please pause the timer a little bit. You need to open the camera. This is the rule. Yeah. Thank you so much. You mute yourself, I think.
You're muted.
Sorry,
I
I
think
just
that's some
accidentally
problem with the internet.
Yeah,
connection.
you just mentioned about inters. Start with that.
So, which means that we are and our opponent. Okay, our opponent mentioned that the mistargeting rate of welfare is 73%, which means that we still help 27% of people, even if our opponents give us the right statistics. Which means that we are helping more people, way more people than our opponents do, and we have a better impact. The third catch point is pension. our opponent totally dropped our point about pension. They only stated that the reason that people move to urban areas from rural areas is because urban areas have a better pension system. This is exactly why we should put more money in welfare and in pension. This is because if we put more money in pension, then we can solve poverty among the rural areas. And according to our card, in 2011, it was estimated that there were more than 18 million poor older people in China, with over 75% of these living in rural areas. So if we put more money into pension, we're helping these 18 million poor older people. We're lifting these 18 million poor people out of poverty, and over 75% of them are living in rural areas. So thus, we urge a pro ballot. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much to Pro's first speaker. And this is the last card. Do not close the camera or video during the whole speech, during the whole debate round. So move on to Council summary speech, please.
Okay, so just ready, judges ready,
Yeah.
opponents ready. The time goes now. I first want to state our framework. We want to have enough long-standing benefits to get rid of poverty permanently. And first of all, our opponent failed to directly respond to the problem, like how the solution, how to avoid the overcrowding problem. And before they mention higher education, they have to first get in a primary school, middle school. But for getting in those schools, if there's no enough public infrastructure in rural, how they can get enough basic education? And yeah, we approve that. We also get a link. We can find a correlation between education and income level. But well, even though they have money, how they can pass the test if the quality of the learning is not good because of the overcrowding problem? And our opponent I think they misunderstand the resolution, because the resolution not only mentioned elevate the poverty, but also mentioned the increasing spending. So we believe the pension system now is already enough for rural students to get in primary and those schools, but it just and the but the disparity between the rural place and the urban place just because of the lack of public infrastructure. So we want the building, the construction of infrastructures can help to develop rural areas, helping them to catch up with the pace of development of the city, to shrink the inequality between the urban and rural. For the second part, our opponents say like the welfare can give the unemployed people assistance. They say they can just directly give money to those people to handle this problem, but there's no statistics or data show that directly giving money to those unemployed people can permanently get rid of the poverty. And also for elders people, if we keep giving money to those elders people without another helps, how they can solve this problem? Because you are keeping giving their money by using the welfare program. How that can be considered as the alleviation of the poverty? And the mistargeting rate, as we mentioned, that for the goal of construction of public infrastructure, we can see something physically, we can see something intangibly. So we can know that if this thing is established or not. But for money, it's hard to control the money flow. How you can know if this money is going to those elders? Thanks.
Or crossfire.
No, you. Never mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No problem. Okay, so Grand Crossfire time will start now.
Okay, so do you agree with us that pension system is effective at alleviating poverty?
Sorry, can you repeat
Or
your
let me put the question this way: pension system. Do you agree with us that pension system solves poverty among the old people?
Okay, so as I mentioned before in my summary speech, I say like the resolution is not only about alleviate the poverty, it's also about the increasing spending. So
we're
yeah,
going to mention- okay,
we
we're going
agree
to
that
mention-
the welfare program can
I got
improve,
what I need.
but
Okay, I got what I need. We're going to mention about that in your summary, in your final focus speech, and it's your turn to ask a question.
Okay, I have a question to ask you that when you say that you have a greater impact, you said that 40% of the students cannot go to school because they cannot afford the tuition and fees, which means that 60% of the students can still go to school. However, most of those 60% are facing problem of overcrowding. Are you saying that we should not fix those 60%?
Okay, so let's do the math. You're saying that 40% of people that can go to school are having overcrowded problem, right? So 60% times 40% equals to 24%, which means that you're providing higher quality education for 24% of people.
We're not
Yeah,
the
also-
math. Yeah, I'm not trying to do the math, but I'm saying that there are 60% of students who could go to school. However, they might face the problem of overcrowding. You're saying that we should not set the priority of the math.
Let me say your statistics again. You said that 40% of people have suffered that can go to school are having the overcrowded problem, which means that 40%
More than 40%. The stats says more than 40%, and this
Do
is
you
not
have
a
any-
complete number. The number could be large. It could only be larger. So
Do you have any correlation? Do you have any correlation between the overcrowding problem and the quality of education? Because we are clearly stating the link, but you're not, so you can't get away with that. Do you have any evidence that shows the students are performing
overcrowding.
worse?
Overcrowding issue is causing the teachers to pay less attention to each student individually, which will decrease the efficiency of the class. So this
Okay, so
will
judges,
result
our
in bad
opponents our opponents are escaping our problem, escaping our question here, and you couldn't let them get away with it. I think it's your turn to ask a question.
Yeah.
Well, I want to restate that you're also not answering my question about putting the priority of 60% of people behind those 40%.
Wait,
Okay.
because you didn't prove the correlation between the quality and the overcrowding problem. So that is why we are not putting in the priority, because you're not proving it in the
It's
first
not our
place.
burden before you
Yes.
prove it. Yeah.
Before you prove it, you have to provide evidence that shows the correlation.
I think time's up.
Pro-side final focus. Do you want to use up all of your prep time?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so Pro wants to use all of the prep time. Thank you so much, host. This is all of your prep time. Pro site.
Okay, judges ready, my opponents ready, and my time starts now. So I want to restate the evidence. According to Project Partner, only about 40% of the rural students even attend high school because of its cost. Many decide to drop out in middle school. They pursue a trade to start earning income for their struggling families, while our opponents stated that 10% of rural students are in crowded school, and in their restated evidence, they say that 40% of them are in oversized classroom, but they never give any evidence that show the oversized classroom will affect the quality of education. So we can't prioritize this before they prove it. Their entire contention that alleviates poverty through this doesn't stand because they're not providing the link between school coverage oversizing with the quality of education. So when we are weighing how many people we're improving the education of, we're helping more people comparing to them. Also, we clearly stated the link that families don't have enough money to provide their children to school, and thus increasing the funding of education among families can solve this. More years of education will effectively alleviate people from poverty. Also, our opponents explained the mistargeting of welfare is about 70%. It is outdated, but even if it is true in the present, only 8.5% of the employee previously working occupation heavily utilizing highways. So when we are comparing how much people we're alleviating, the poverty from the welfare system is more efficient. Also, during the crossfire, our opponents stated that the elders will be left in the village. That is why we should increase the funds in pension, because China is an aging country, and by increasing the funds, we'll be able to prevent 18 million people from poverty. Our opponents stated that this debate is about spending, and according to a report by World Social Society Security, the current pension fund for urban workers will have difficulty maintaining the balance for the next few years within the upcoming 3 decades. This means we need to put in more money in this. In our opponent's world, they're merely helping 10% of people to a better education in the 9-year compulsory education. But in our world, we're providing education that exceeds middle school. So the voting issue is the amount of people we're alleviating poverty from. Thank you.
Thank you so much, pro-side second speaker. So con-side second speaker, do you want to use up all of your prep time before your final focus?
Yes, we will use all of our prep time.
I think time is up.
Yes,
Just
so concept, please.
okay. Time starts now. I wanted to first state that the opponent obviously misread our evidence, even though we already sent a card to the group chat. They constantly emphasizing the 10% number. However, the 10% is the number for the class size over 66%. The real number is 40% of classes. More than 40% of classes are overcrowding. So they fail to understand our evidence, which results in their insufficient understanding in our argument. And they're avoiding this obvious number of 40% because they could not provide any evidence that says that they should put those 60% of students priority after those 40%. And secondly, our opponents did not propose a clear solution for the mistargeting issue. Mistargeting means that the money for the funding for welfare programs are going wasted, which is not efficient, as the resolution stated. The resolution stated that which approach we should take to invest more money to effectively alleviate poverty. However, the mistargeting rate is so high, but they never proposed any resolution for the mistargeting issues, which means that they are asking to spend money on a wasting money project. They should provide solution for mistargeting, but they did not. And also, they failed to address our question about the sustainability of welfare program for elders in the crossfire. Our framework states that whichever side could have a more sustainable effect in permanently alleviating the poverty should win, but they did not say that how can simply giving money to elders could alleviate them from poverty. As soon as the government stopped the funding, the elders would be drawn back to poverty.
Thanks.
Okay, so this is the end of this round. Thank you so much for both sides for debating, and the judge will vote on the mini program and give your results as soon as possible. Thank you so much for debating.
Thanks. Can
Thank
we,
you.
Thank you.
okay, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
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 Oh, why you guys are bye-bye? Wait.
I thought they were like asking for feedback or something.
Yeah, and they just all of them were just there. Yeah, it's okay. And they do not know the results, and all of them
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
just there.
Wait, I
The
thought
papers
the
are- the
results
green
should not
paper-
come out
So
yet.
everyone was quiet. I was like,
Yeah, we
what?
don't
Wait,
have
I
to
thought
give
the results
feedback.
should not come out yet for the final.
I
I
think we
think
should
we
tell
yeah,
them,
we're
to be
supposed to
honest.
tell them.
We should tell them. We
Yeah,
should just like,
we should.
Never mind.
yeah.
Sorry, we thought we have to leave.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think that it's okay for you guys to come back because we need to give you the results before you guys leave. Yeah, but now we are voting on the mini program, so please wait. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay, so we have the results. Oh, okay. So this
That
is
was
a
not the same bag
yeah.
me usually to room, sorry.
Oh, okay. So first we will also just to notify each of you, cause basically this is a knowledge champion. So basically we will give you results to tell you which side win in this debate round, and all 5 judges will give you oral feedback. So do not leave before any of the judges did not give feedback yet. Yeah. So basically this is a 5-0 round, means all of the judges vote for pro side. So pro wins in this finals round. So I will just start with my oral feedback cause yeah. So basically, so before we move on to for me the voting issues and clashing points, so I think a council needs to actually understand that what does the structure of summary speech and final focus means. Because of basically you did some of the rebuttals in summary speech and final focus, I think it makes sense, but you almost spend all of your time doing rebuttals to pro side. But summary speech is supposed to be like giving clashing points, like about the educational system you guys argue, and about the efficiency and effectiveness of today's debate. This kind of clashing points, you need to organize them and give impact weighting to each of them to persuade the judge that you guys should win this debate. And for the final focus, you guys are still doing some of the rebuttal that I don't think it actually makes sense. Because of like your final focus, you need to give clear voting issues. Like all of the points that you dropped in summary speech and some of the points that dropped by pro side, you need to mention all of them into the judge to persuade the judge to buy their votes. And basically, for me, there are basically 3 clashing points of this debate, and I think pro wins all of them. The first one is about effectiveness and efficiency. So basically, Khan did not actually respond to this point. For most of the pros arguments, like they mentioned about tension, Khan did not actually touch it. And also for Khan did a really great rebuttal on job creation at this point to elevate party by creating jobs. But at the end of the day, you did not actually do any impact weighing in this to prove that you guys are actually impact weighing the process, so that I will not count this as a voting issue. Move on to the summary speech and final focus. So basically, both sides are arguing about it because of some of the people could not go to high school. It's because of some of them could not afford. But pro at the end of the day proved to me that actually what they can do to solve this thing. But Khan did not actually engage with this one. And also when Khan mentioned about mistargeting welfare system to rebut pro's cases, pro actually said because of your evidence is outdated and we have more solid evidence to prove that we will not do that, and the public infrastructure have more mistargeting things. But I think a small suggestion on process crossbar question is when you ask crossbar questions, you need to engage with concept cases. Second, do not only ask about like do you have any evidence this on this point to support that. First of all, it is a really weak. So if they have evidence, you kind of waste time on this and read waste 45 seconds to read evidence. You just use evidence checking time will be more efficient in this debate round. And the second of all, you could change your crossbar question in a more general scope, kind of like directly engage with their cases. So congratulations to both teams for entering the finals. Means that you guys did pretty great in all of the rounds and keep going in the future of debate. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So for this time, can we leave?
Oh, you
yeah,
have to hear all the judge.
Yeah, you have to hear all the judges.
Okay.
Feedback,
So just
yeah,
to be
so
clear,
important.
just I'll briefly talk about something. So like there is a point that I don't really get. The point you mentioned about like overcrowded and etc. You mentioned about a statistic about like over 50 people means overcrowded. Just to be clear, I come from a class that is one of the best middle school in our city, which have a 60 people in one class. 50 people is not overcrowded. And in majority of situations in rural classes is that they don't have enough students to actually form a class. This is something to be kept a note of. So like what really happening in the rural area is they cannot afford schools and parents would rather like keep the children at home to help with some household or things, etc. So they don't send their children to the school. Therefore, for each grade, there is not enough people for one class to even open. Therefore, the overcrowded situations does not really exist. So I had to drop on that. And also, I really like the point that you have on this target, but well, like they win on more points. I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so add to it, I think that it was a good debate. Having come into the finals means you both did well, both teams. To add to what the other judges have said, con team, I think that your rebuttal, you need to this is a public forum debate, and then we deal with facts and a very credible sources of evidence. So if you make a claim, make sure that you support your claim with substantial evidence. Otherwise, if you just basing all your arguments or most of your arguments on logic, it wouldn't really compare to the other team that will provide very credible sources that can be checked or that is well cited. And then I think that is all to add to what the other judges have said. And try to add very quantifiable impact to your impact. If you're just stating the impact without the percentages and the numbers, when you weigh impact, you have very less opportunities of winning if you don't include a lot of quantified impact to your argument. Apart from that, I think you've all done well, and congratulations to you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, am I the last judge to give feedback? I don't know. Okay, so basically, I also voted for pro, but actually, I mean, only for 1 second, I actually wanted to vote for the con side because they had like really good rebuttals. For example, the Google problem and also the 9-year compulsory education, and they also questioned the other side whether giving money really means that really means the alleviation of poverty or just statistical alleviation poverty, but actually they failed to strengthen their stance in other parts. I mean, the parts after the rebuttal speech, and also in the summary and final focus, they did not bring me the like the first judge said, the crash points and voting issue, but they consumed so much time about like the overcrowding contention and overcrowding rebuttals, but forgot to bring me the most important thing. But in contrast, I mean, the other side brought me very clear final focus, which summarized their voting issues and also told me that the welfare system actually is gonna exceed middle school education, but give me like more years for those students, especially in poor areas, to enjoy higher education. So I actually made up my mind after the final focus. So congratulations to both team. I think the con side has to improve like the questioning and answering, because sometimes I did not actually understand the crossfire. I think you really kind of undermine the understanding of your cases for the judges. And also, I think your summary and final focus could be improved. Yeah, that's what about my comment. Yeah, good job.
Thanks.
We can't hear you.
We can't.
Yeah, we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we could hear you right now.
So just several suggestions for the con side. I actually appreciate the second speaker's logic. Like, you had very good understanding of the long-term benefits and good point of the effectiveness of infrastructure being easier to measure and evaluate than welfare. However, you have little evidence to support all of your points. And also for the first speaker, your constructive speech is quite vague. You need more supporting evidence. If not, then that point doesn't count. So as for the pro side, they actually had more valid evidence, and they also had a very strong point of pension. They said that I couldn't remember the they said that like how which proportion of the people will lack pension in the next few decades, right? And also they had several sharp questions raised during crossfires, especially the first speaker, well performed during crossfires. And also you pointed sharply to the link to the logical link of the con debaters, like how is the oversized classrooms, like Shirley has mentioned, how is that related to the quality of education? So to me, that was not hard to decide. So my suggestion for con is that next time prepare for more evidence. Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I think now you can go.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys are free to go now.
Thank you.
Have a
Have
nice day.
Have a great
Yeah,
night.
thank you so much for devoting time to debate. Yeah,
Bye.
bye-bye.